you expect a rebound in growth to about 6.3% next year. What needs to happen within Europe to get there?
Indeed, if you look at our spring economic forecast as regards euro area, we expect a 7.7% recession this year and quite strong rebound next year of 6.3%. But this forecast is based on a scenario which foresees that confinement measures are concentrated in the first half of this year, and we expect then gradual lifting of confinement measures in the second half of the year, and correspondingly also gradual resumption of economic activity, which then allows for economy to rebound quite strongly next year. But at the end of the day, of course, what is important that this also epidemiological forecast, this epidemiological scenario materializes.
And I guess the question is, what support do we need to see to get us there? During the press conference, the European Commissioner said that you're discussing a possibility of an intervention of a pan-European tool, also on equities, etc. Does that mean that you'd be looking at taking a stake in struggling companies, an equity stake in struggling companies?
First of all, as regards EU's crisis response, already so far we have mobilized at EU level and member states level 3.4 trillion euros, which is approximately 25% of EU's GDP, which is EU's largest crisis response ever. And now, for the recovery phase, we are preparing what we call recovery instrument, which will be a substantial increase in the financing power of EU budget. So we're talking about the next multi-annual EU budget for 7 years. And as part of this, indeed, we are looking also how to support the investment in equity of companies, because we have provided major liquidity support to companies, but as economy is in such a deep recession, we also need to see how we can provide direct or rather indirect equity response. Because what we see that...
Is that basically a European sovereign wealth fund?
Well, not necessarily. It's basically what we see is that the capacity of member states to support their companies is different. And there are member states whose economy is able to support their companies on a major scale, and there are economies like more in Southern Europe, but also Central and Eastern Europe, where the capacity of member states to support the companies is more limited. So what we want to do is to limit the economic divergence between EU member states and to provide this support to Southern European and Central Eastern European countries.
So that really sounds like, though, you'd be taking an equity stake in like an Italian company. I don't see how that's not a sovereign wealth fund unless it's in a subordinated debt or granting loans kind of level.
Well, as I said, we are still discussing, of course, the exact forms of participation, whether it's direct or also indirect, basically providing some reassurances, guarantees, or other ways of actually encouraging private investment in those companies. So there is still some elements which we need to iron out.
What do you advocate right now, knowing that the recovery is going to be two-tiered?
That's why from European Commission side we are emphasizing this recovery instrument, meaning strong EU budget with substantially increased financing capacity and with a strong and front-loaded investment component, especially for years 2021 and 2022, when the economy will be recovering. So using those EU-level instruments to rebalance also the strengths of economic recovery.